Can AI chatbots be effective in a political campaign? The MacVoices Live panel discusses a test case. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Backblaze. MacVoices listeners get a fully featured no-risk free trial at backblaze.com/MacVoices. I'm going to rearrange the order of things because this sort of has to do with this. This is what Mark was referring to. But there's a politician that in American Samoa that beat Biden in, I guess, their primary. And this is not, we're not going to go political on this. The point is that he used AI in his election campaign. He has seriously limited funds. And so he's using an avatar to interact with his constituents. It's not even a great avatar, and the article mentions that yeah, he could have spent more money on the avatar, but he didn't have the money to spend to make it better. So he's using it as a way, as a chatbot to respond to things. I just think this is fascinating. And again, we're going to see more and more of this. This guy is completely open about it. He's embracing AI as opposed to demonizing it. Did anybody else see anything about this? Marty, how about you?
Yeah, I when I first read the story, I said, well, which is less genuine, the AI candidate or the real candidate? It's really hard to tell from the experience. I also paid attention to the text where it said he spent $5,000 in America Samoa to win that election. However, he had gotten $50,000 in contributions with a goal of raising $100,000. So with those kind of numbers, he's like pulling a producer scam on everybody in the sense of we're going to raise more money for a production that's going to cost us. And he doesn't have to sleep with little old ladies either. That's the thing.
Wow. Marty, the fact that you went to producers is awesome.
So yeah, I am not disturbed by the fact that he's using AI to augment his response. And the article goes into pretty good discussion of how he set that up and how the company that worked with him to get that set up. I'm not surprised at all. I won't be surprised that other candidates are doing the same thing.
Yeah, this is just the first instance I've seen of it, and that's why it caught my attention so much. Let's see, Brian.
When I was reading the article, I was paying attention to the relatively low amount of money that it costs for this person to run. And, I was thinking to myself, that has to be astoundingly lower than the average cost. And so I just did a quick search, individual candidates of, some of these campaigns, how much they had cost. It mentioned Obama, $898 million, Hillary Clinton, $621 million, Mitt Romney, $536 million, tons and tons of money. So when you just think about, folks who run for office and the ability for others who may not have the finances, and I don't know anything about this candidate, what they're about, anything of that nature, but, it kind of brings into the fold some of the ideas that, maybe somebody who doesn't have hundreds of millions of dollars to raise and fund could have that opportunity.
Yeah. According to this story, there were 91 votes cast in America Samoa. So he actually spent a lot of money per vote.
Yeah.
And to me, this story looks like an excuse for the Wall Street Journal to run a story saying Biden lost.
I don't know about that, Jim. I don't know. I almost don't think it matters who won or lost. The fact that he was even in contention is the story.
You think that was the story?
Yeah, that he opted to choose this way of attempting to reach the voters.
I don't think this isn't a story. It's just
having worked in politics, this is definitely a story. Political campaigns require a lot of people, a lot of logistics. The fact that we are even talking about we even know about Jason Palmer at all is a bit of a game changer. Trust me, political campaigns are going to be looking at this. They're going to be looking at it as a way to further voting into later millennials and Gen Z. They're going to look for it as a way to cut costs.
There you go.
You know what? I do not think that this is going to catch on with with other campaigns, and I'll tell you why. So, apparently he's letting an AI speak for him, and AIs say all kinds of nutty things. So, imagine that some real candidate, allows AI to generate responses, and it comes up with some nutball thing. Your savings are far out the door, and your campaign may be torpedoed. I don't think this is going to catch on. Yeah, Brian asked if the real candidates are saying anything less nutty. Sometimes they don't, but at least they, it's something that they're doing, that they're controlling. Imagine, all of a sudden, a story comes out and the campaign doesn't know anything about it because their AI went and said something that they didn't know it said. I don't think that's the kind of a risk that campaign managers are going to want to take on.
It's going to be interesting to see, Jim. I hear what you're saying, and I don't completely disagree. I would think that if somebody of major interest is going to let an AI speak for them, their team is going to have to be watching that AI really, really closely. And
at which point, what's the point? Just
but at this, but look, we've said this a million times too. AI is as bad as it's ever going to get right now. It's only going to get better. And so, this guy, call him a groundbreaker if you want to, but I don't think this is the last time we're going to see this. I think it's just, it may become wide. I think it'll become more widely used as AI gets better.
What's the upside? I mean, you're going to have this thing essentially make custom responses to voters, which means it's saying things that have never been said before that aren't under the control of the campaign.
Today's MacVoices is supported by Backblaze. MacVoices listeners get a fully featured, no-risk free trial at backblaze.com/MacVoices. Go right now and see how easy it is to protect yourself from nasty surprises. I've been telling you about some of the benefits of Backblaze and why it's a key component of my personal backup strategy. It's time for a quick review. Number 1, Backblaze is easy. With just a few clicks, you're on your way to protecting your data. Backblaze is customizable. Customize what you do and don't want to back up, how much of your bandwidth you want to use for your backups, and when you want Backblaze to do your backups. Number 3, access your backed up data from anywhere in the world with the Backblaze web app, iOS app, or Android app. Number 4, if you need to restore fast, you can order a hard drive copy of your data to be shipped to you. And if you return the drive within 30 days, you get a full refund. Number 5, if you're an enterprise user, there's even more. Granular access permissions, advanced simple sign-on, group management controls, a compliance report, and much more. Okay, I give up. There's so much more to Backblaze, but I'm out of time. To find out everything and get started, visit backblaze.com/MacVoices and get your fully featured, no-risk free trial today. Knowing your data is backed up is a really good feeling in an uncertain world. Do it now. Backblaze.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Backblaze for supporting MacVoices.
In the article, and I'm reporting here, so Jim, don't slay me if you think it's not technically correct, because I have doubts of it as well. But in the article, they say, they use that word, guardrails, where almost everybody is saying they have guardrails about how large language models are used and how they have guardrails about certain topics that they can restrict it from. And, Wednesday last week, I had a long discussion with an AI solutions architect at Microsoft about some of their tools and technology. And he said similar things, that they have guardrails because they're helping customers with customer support line and customer support queries and things. So there are ways, I think, probably more advanced than certainly I bet anybody on this panel is aware of how to tailor and control the output of these things so that they don't, like that famous story a year ago, encourage a reporter to, well, I'm just tired and you're a pathetic, guy. Why don't you just kill yourself and end everything? So, they're ending. Apparently, I understand they have, technology to limit things like that from going off the rails. But I think I think to the point that I don't think Jim understands that a lot about politics is, not so much a debate about the issues, it's getting people to like you. And if you have the ability that you could feign a conversation with somebody, that goes a long way to likability. I do know I have a cousin who, had, this is back in sort of when Biden was VP. So this would have been back in maybe 10 or 12, had a big event and Biden was supposed to appear and speak, and she was working for a defense think tank, and Biden for whatever reason couldn't do it, and then he called her up 2 days later, and she said, "Oh, this is the best conversation ever," and he was really sorry, and I felt really good in talking with him, and so on and so forth. So these guys are skilled con men and trying to make people feel an emotional connection. They're like they're like actors. So I think to the extent that these tools, can help disperse that, I think will work. Much like, remember back, there was all the scandal back after the fact in 2017 of how Trump used Facebook and all the analytical scandal about how they're getting all the data so that they could, personalize the sort of, just stupid display ads that got, displayed to people through Facebook. This follows on the same approach. You can better profile and query with other people and hit their hot buttons, and then reach out and touch them. And I think, like Ben said, I don't know if so much about cost reduction. I think it's probably more about scaling the ability to personally touch and interact with individual voters.
This guy spent $55 per voter.
Peanuts. Peanuts.
But I mean, it certainly could afford. That's enough money that some human could have, spent 10 minutes or even an hour with each voter.
Yeah, but it doesn't scale, Jim. You can't,
Right, but this guy hasn't done the scaling. I just don't believe this story. There's no examples in it. I think he's sold a bill of goods to the Wall Street Journal, is what I think.
No, but look, he's in taking nothing away from American Samoa, please, no emails. But it's American Samoa, okay? So they don't have that large a population. But something like this could be transplanted to the mainland and scaled, and would be potentially much more effective, I think, is what Mark's saying. And by the way, email Mark Fuccio with the subject line "skilled con men." I'm sure that he'd love to hear from you, Marty.
I have a lot more faith in these large language models. Having used them, the capacity that I work in terms of counseling, I haven't used them for counseling, but I have used them to create scenarios of different people talking, once setting up and establishing what each one of the characters are. And they talk about in the article, they drew from his speeches, they drew from not only just get the audio, but to also get the content and the flavor of that. People talk a lot about hallucinations. With the work that I've done with it, I've never run into hallucinations. I mean, it would be probably bad for a candidate to say your mother was a hamster and your father smelled of elderberries, but I just don't see that happening whenever I use these language models. So I have more faith in them, and I think probably greater possibility for these being incorporated into campaigns.
Hey, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how many others here will jump on this, but I'll do it anyway. Star Trek, booby trap, Star Trek: The Next Generation, booby trap, Dr. Leah Brahms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
that-
Eric
yeah.
got it. Ben got it.
yeah.
Oh God, we're not going to digital girlfriends, are we?
Well, I don't know. Brian, did you get it? You got, and look, we don't want to go too far down this, but it is basically a story about utilizing a computer model, infusing it with personality, and constructing it, and infusing a personality based on public speeches made, and what happens after that. So I'm not going to screw anything else up for anybody that hasn't watched it, but I do feel like there's precedence here, at least in science fiction, and in recent science fiction, relatively recent. That, yeah,
Well,
you have to wonder.
Chuck, my thought is science fiction is what this Wall Street Journal article is also.
Well,
I think it's actually a great testing ground.
Yeah.
You want a proof of concept for whether or not you would be able to do this sort of thing? Well, American Samoa is a small place and an easy test ground.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, and the whole assumption here is people would be upset that they were talking to an AI generated politician versus a real politician. It's the message that they're interested in, not necessarily how it's delivered. So I think we're making a big thing about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think if somebody thought they were speaking to a real live person and then found out they weren't, I think that'd have they'd have major repercussions. But if they didn't think that, if they thought, okay, we've created this ability that you can interact and ask this candidate all sorts of questions. I think depending on how it's presented, you could avoid that sort of sense of betrayal and revulsion.
Web?
Oh, I was just going to say that as we get into the general AI topic discussion, and I agree with you, Chuck. It's only going to get better. It's just going to grow and transform itself into something bigger and better. Is it going to sway elections? We'll see about that. I go back to the first time I listened to, I think it was QuickTime streaming, and I was trying to listen to a radio station out of Germany. I'm talking 15, maybe 20 years ago now, through a dial-up, and how bad that was. And I was sharing it with somebody in my office at the time. They go, "That's terrible." And I said, "Yeah, but think about it. It's only going to get better." And when we get from QuickTime streaming to where we are right now, and I think I've made this reference before on the show in the past, so it's amazing. AI is going to get better. It's going to be something we're going to have to deal with. I also think that I will say that one of the problems with what we're talking about cars and Tesla's self-driving thing is called autopilot. And I think that's a terrible name for what it is, because it's really not truly autopilot. It does kind of help drive, but it doesn't have this intelligence. Same thing with AI. The I stands for intelligence. There's no intelligence in that at all, at least not right now. So it just, I think it'll be interesting. It's only going to get better. I do think it has a bad name. That's just my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Ben, get the last word.
I think we're kind of missing one crucial point to this. American Samoa is very remote, and it only has less than 50,000 people. There is no way Air Force One is ever going to touch down for a political campaign or any candidate's plane at Pago Pago International Airport. These are very disaffected voters. This is effectively making these people feel seen for the first time.
Interesting point.
In a way that traditional campaign methods have not.
Yeah. Okay, I lied. Jeff, you want to bring that up? Because we already saw this, but not with AI or LLM.
All right. So to paraphrase myself, imagine what you can do with tools like this when you're not trying to make yourself look good as a candidate, but to discredit your opponent. And that's exactly why we've already seen discussions about what can be done to prohibit that from happening. But then we've also seen a little bit of this with the AI. I have to do air quotes here. AI Biden call that was fabricated and was telling people to not go vote. So yeah, we're already seeing the nefarious use of this in political campaigns, and boy, it's going to be an interesting campaign season.
Think back to the Nixon administration, and all the stories that came out of Watergate or pre-Watergate and Watergate, all the dirty tricks campaigns. This just seems to be more. I don't know what it is about politics that seems to bring out the worst in people, but it seems to be. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.